Back to another video, guys. Today we're on episode 1, when the only one, I hope, of a week in review, a week of terror and tragedy. Probably the second one sounded better. But we all know about the South Korea crash. But do you guys know about the other 4 crashes? Like the Kazakhstan crash that got shot down by Russia on Christmas Day, and Russia just said, sorry. Or, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, but the United Arab Emirates, not Emirates, UAE, the plane that went down in the UAE. The club plane that went down. Or the KLM flight that skidded off the runway a day ago. Or the Air Canada flight that burst into flames. Or the Lux close call. These are the 5 airplane crashes and 1 close call in 7 days. Welcome to a week of tragedy. So let's go to youtube.com. And let's start with the KLM. Oh, this is not correct. Try that again. Still not correct. Maybe I just need to put KLM. Oh crap, I put KISS. That's why. Came to accidentally put KISS instead of KLM. That's nice. KLM crash. Let's watch this.
Listen, you want to skip this ad. I would too. But what if I told you there's a skip ads for everybody?
It's called Pi, and if that sounds familiar to you, it's probably because you've seen their ads everywhere. It's an ad blocker that works on Twitch, YouTube, Amazon, and everywhere else you go on Chrome. And if that seems too good to be true, it's not. Over 500,000 people have downloaded it in just the past few months. It's available for free on the Chrome store right now, yet you're still watching this ad like an absolute doofus? Incredible. Plus, if you opt in, Pi will actually pay you money to see ads. Crazy, right? Good luck finding it.
On December 28th, a KLM Royal Dutch Airlines Boeing 737-800 bound for Amsterdam was forced to make an emergency landing in Oslo Torp Sandefjord Airport. Upon landing, the aircraft veered off the runway. We examined this incident in this video. Quite understandably, the news of this KLM incident was overshadowed by the incredibly tragic Jeju air accident that took place on December 29th. Also taking place on December 28th was an incident involving a Dash 8 in Halifax, Canada that skidded off the runway and caught fire upon landing.
That's the Air Canada one.
Indeed, it's an awful end to 2024 for the aviation world. When it comes to the KLM incident, the Boeing 737-800 aircraft registered as Papa Hotel Bravo X-Ray Mike was operating short-haul flight KL1204 from Oslo Gardermoen to Amsterdam Schiphol. Per Flight Radar 24, the aircraft took off at 18:10 local time, over an hour behind schedule. Aviation Herald reports that the crew reported hydraulic problems and stopped the climb at 5,000 feet, eventually opting to make an emergency landing at the nearby Oslo Torp Sandefjord. The airport's emergency services were put on standby for the jet's arrival. The diversion was executed following a quote-unquote hard noise, according to KLM. Upon landing, the Boeing 737-800, carrying 182 passengers, veered off the runway and made a complete stop in the grass. According to a report by VG, the pilots lost control of the aircraft upon landing. One of the pilots reported over the flight radio, "After touchdown, we were unable to control the plane. It swerved to the right and we couldn't stop it." According to a Norwegian police report, no injuries were reported in connection with the landing, and passengers were transported by bus back to Gardermoen, where they were accommodated in a hotel. It was later confirmed that the aircraft had suffered a hydraulic failure. According to a Norwegian local media report, smoke was observed coming from the airliner's left engine. The aircraft in question is KLM's 24-year-old Boeing 737-800 powered by CFM56 engines.
What in the world is with all these 737s? What in the world? Like, the one that crashed in South Korea was a 737. This is 737.
The aircraft was delivered to the airline in November 2000. Per the most recent data available on CH Aviation as of July 31st, 2024, the aircraft had clocked a total of 60,843 flight hours and 38,070 flight cycles. The Norwegian Accident Investigation Board has
Yeah, they're looking into it. Okay, now let's go to the Air Canada crash. I'm gonna kill these ads.
Eve Online on Mac immerses you in a universe with thousands.
For passengers on Air Canada Flight 2259 from St. John's to Halifax on December 28th, the flight was normal until it came to landing. Steve Marr, a passenger on the flight, says the severity of the situation didn't hit him until smoke started filling up the cabin.
So for a moment that felt really unusual, and then you could feel that left side drop, which I think is when the landing gear completely gave way, and the left side of the plane was now gliding on the tarmac on the engine. So sparks were flying, you could sort of see it just out the window. Then the sparks became flames, and it's just sort of at the moment was kind of like almost felt like slow motion.
77 people were on board the flight, 73 passengers and 4 crew. This video posted on X shows the tense moment during landing. While there are no injuries, Mars says he's still coming to terms with the incident.
You know, I think every time I'm coming in for a landing now, obviously that's going to cross my mind.
Halifax Stanfield International Airport had to suspend air travel for 90 minutes in response to the incident. Flights have since continued to operate. Tiffany Chase, a spokesperson for the Halifax International Airport Authority, says that people should keep an eye on updates.
So flights have been continuing to operate overnight and through the day today. Pending weather conditions, of course, we'll continue to see flights operate, but we do encourage people to stay tuned to any flight updates on the status of their flight in case there are further delays or cancellations.
Peter Fitzpatrick, a spokesperson for Air Canada, highlights the flight experienced a suspected landing gear issue, saying, There were no injuries reported. However, we appreciate this incident was unsettling for customers and we remain available to assist them. At this time, we are waiting for the Transportation Safety Board to release the aircraft so we can return to customers their belongings. The cause of the incident is currently unknown, and Air Canada will not comment further while the Transportation Safety Board is investigating the situation. Angela Capobianco, Global.
Okay, that's the Air Canada one. Before we look at the Kazakhstan one, let's look at the Jazahara. Oh, well, they might not have made anything on it. Nope, they didn't make anything on it. I can tell you guys it did happen. You can, like, look it up if you really want to. Now let's look at the Russia. Okay, here's, the Kazakhstan one.
The best things never change.
Not another ad!
They just get better. Like Hardee's Original Bag, just $6.99. Choose from juicy charbroiled double cheeseburger.
Some breaking news coming in. Well, Vladimir Putin has apologized for the Kazakhstan plane crash. Remember, that killed 38 people out of the 70 people on board. But an absolutely sensational update, as many would say in this case, because of course the airlines, the Azerbaijani airlines had also said that there is some external interference certainly that led to that dramatic plane crash. And of course, Russia's silence were raising a lot of questions. But now Kremlin coming out and saying that perhaps it could be the Russian strike that could be behind the Kazakhstan air crash. In fact, of course, Vladimir Putin has apologized for the Kazakhstan airplane crash as well. Let me go across to my colleague Vishal Vivek. So, Vishal, Kremlin, in a sense, stopped short of saying that it was the Russian strike that was behind the Kazakhstan airplane crash, but the fact that it has owned up to the point that Russia was firing at Ukraine during the time of the crash says a lot. And Vladimir Putin also apologizing for what he calls a tragic incident.
Yes, it is huge in the sense that this incident happened just a few days ago, and there was already a lot of speculation, a lot of reports in the media, especially in Western media, that had said that Russia could be behind it. The missile defense system of Russia could have been activated at the time when the crash happened. So indeed, these speculations have culminated into this, and Putin has apologized. This is a rare instance. He has not directly said that Russia was behind the death of at least 38 people. Russian air, as of
Well, they
now,
don't show his
we
actual
know
response.
that
That's funny.
Russia had activated the air and defense system, and the shrapnel hit the plane because there were a lot of
The time now 2:13 on the East Coast, 11:13 on the West Coast, and I do want to take you back to this breaking news that we have been following international, of course, as Russian President Vladimir Putin has now apologized to his counterpart in Azerbaijan for what he called a, quote, tragic incident following the crash of an airliner over in Kazakhstan that killed 38 people, but he stopped short of acknowledging that Moscow was responsible. Putin's apology came as allegations mount that the plane had been shot down by Russian air defenses attempting to deflect a Ukrainian drone strike near Grozny, that is the regional capital there. An official Kremlin statement issued Saturday said that air defense systems were firing near Grozny airport as the airliner, quote, repeatedly attempted to land there on Wednesday. It did not explicitly say one of these hit the plane. The statement said Putin apologized to the Azerbaijan president, quote, for the fact that the tragic incident occurred in Russian airspace. The readout said Russia has launched a criminal probe into the incident, and the Azerbaijan state prosecutors have arrived in Grozny to take part. The Kremlin also said that, quote, relevant services from Russia, Azerbaijan, and Kazakhstan are jointly investigating the crash site near the city there in Kazakhstan where it did crash. Again, you can see the video on your screen. The plane was apparently flying from the Azerbaijan capital of Baku over to Grozny when it turned toward Kazakhstan, hundreds of miles across the Caspian Sea from its intended destination, and crashed while making an attempt to land. There were a total of 29 survivors, according to officials there.
29?
According to a readout of the call provided by the press office, the Azerbaijan president told Putin that the plane was subject to, quote, external physical and technical interference, although he also stopped short of blaming Russian air defenses. The readout there coming from the press office did say that the plane had multiple holes in its fuselage and that the occupants had sustained injuries, quote, due to foreign particles penetrating the cabin mid-flight. He did say that a team of international experts had started probing the incident at Azerbaijan's initiative, but provided no details. Earlier in the week, the Azerbaijan Prosecutor General's office confirmed that investigators from Azerbaijan are working in Grozny. On Friday, a U.S. official and a minister in Azerbaijan made separate statements blaming the crash on an external weapon, echoing those made by aviation experts who blame the crash on Russian air defense systems responding to a Ukrainian attack. Again, all of this is still under investigation. You can see the aftermath on your screen. As we get more details here, we'll make sure to bring those to you right here on Live Now from Fox.
Oh, God. We don't need to know about Township. Let's see if we can get, like, something from that simple flying thing again. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. We still have the Lux thing. Here. Just a close call, guys. This is the one that was in, L.A.
Delta 471, Los Angeles Tower, good afternoon. Wait for one off the other side. Traffic will cross downfield, runway 24 left, line up and wait. 24 left, line up and wait, Delta 471. Southwest 4110, traffic will hold in position. Cross over 24 left, contact ground point 65. Cross 24 left, contact ground, Southwest 4110, yes. Golf train 709 Delta Sierra, turn left to taxiway Victor, keep it rolling. Cross runway 24 left, there is traffic in position, where do you park? Delta 753, ILS 24 right. Delta 753, all center tower, good afternoon, wind 130 at 6, runway 24 right.
I think this is the one that was the basketball team.
Right, Delta 753.
Yeah, basketball team.
Delta 471, wind 130 at 6, RNAV Delray, runway 24 left, clear for takeoff. RNAV Delray, 24 left, clear for takeoff, Delta 471.
The video's up there, by the way, guys. It shows you how close they came. Then here's the map down here.
Key line 563, turn left when able and hold short, runway 24 left.
Uh-oh.
Southwest 1346, all center tower, good afternoon, wind 120 at 6. Key line, stop, stop, stop.
Oof. That was close. I have to know more. Here.
Forget everything you knew about war games. The large-scale
Shut up,
action
War
game
Thunder.
War Thunder will bring you a story.
At new at 6, the FAA is investigating a close call on the runway between two planes at LAX. In the video, you can hear the air traffic controller yelling for a charter flight to stop. Take a listen.
Stop, stop, stop.
This happened yesterday when the charter flight had just landed carrying the Gonzaga University's men's basketball team who played against UCLA tonight. The plane was taxiing to the gate when the pilot was instructed to hold at a certain point. The FAA said the plane passed that point, which caused air traffic control to yell stop. The FAA again is now investigating.
That's so crazy. And we obviously know, even though for funsies.
Local fire officials and aviation experts say some sort of landing gear malfunction.
South Korea.
Local fire officials and aviation experts say some sort of landing gear malfunction was likely. There's also speculation from officials that this may have been caused by a bird strike. The pilot also made a Mayday call shortly after the control tower warned about birds in the area. According to FlightAware, the Jeju airliner was listed as a Boeing 737 traveling from Bangkok, Thailand, before it crash landed at the Muan airport in South Korea. That's in the southwest part of the country. This is the country's worst air disaster in decades. CNN's Mike Valerio has been following this breaking news story from Seoul. Mike, update us on the investigation and where things stand now.
Well, I would say that probably the most dramatic element, Amra, under the floodlights that are illuminating the crash site here is just the urgent effort to try to find the two sets of remains that are of the passengers who are unaccounted for right now. I'll tell you, we've had such a whiplash, chain of events as we followed this story throughout the day here in South Korea. And there was so much hope, Amra, as you mentioned, after the two people were found. The survivors in the back of the plane, the two crew members, were rescued and made it out with their lives. There was hope from a whole host of emergency responders that perhaps a third or a fourth person could be found alive as well. But that hope quickly diminished after the noon hour here in South Korea. So what's happening right now? The two survivors are being moved to hospitals here in Seoul. We don't know their exact conditions as of yet, or if they've been able to speak to investigators. But what they have to say will be critical because the voice and data recorders that comprise the black boxes of this aircraft have both been found. So when you combine those two elements, plus the two survivors, that could paint a more accurate picture because there are elements that are in tension of just what happened here. And what we mean by that is we have a whole slew of people who are involved in the investigation, from government officials that have come from Seoul and also more local leaders like the chief of the fire department, who have mentioned that bird strikes, or a bird strike, I should say singular, could have played a role in a cascading series of events that led to the landing gear malfunctioning. But still, you know, from our analysts who we've spoken to over the past couple hours, it's unclear how a potential bird strike would lead to landing gear not coming down.
Like I said in my
Would
last
lead to
video.
the flaps on the aircraft wings not coming up to slow down the speed of the aircraft. And it's not clear why exactly this 737-800 landed so far down the runway, very close to the end of the runway, and why there was all of this equipment near the end of the runway, which is what the plane slammed into when it met its cataclysmic end. So there are still so many unanswered questions. But Amra, as you and so many of our viewers have been following, we're coming off a time of martial law, December 3rd into December 4th. We're now on our third person who's holding the powers of the president because of the impeachment saga that has been going on since December 3rd. So to say that this has cast a new pall over the country, I would say, is such an understatement, as so many people are in mourning here across South Korea, Amra.
Yeah, just very difficult scenes to watch as this continues to play out. Mike Valerio, thank you very much for your reporting. Let's talk more about this with CNN safety analyst, aviation analyst David Susi. David, you just heard there from Mike that 2 of the black boxes, the data and voice recorder, have been recovered. So obviously we will be learning more in the coming days. But from what we know, also seeing that video where you see the plane landing, you see that the wheels that are used for takeoff and landing are not out when it comes down. And then we've also heard speculation from South Korean officials that this could have been a bird strike.
No, it could not have been a darn
playing
goddamn
a factor
bird strike.
in this. What is your initial assessment, David?
If a man really hated ads, here's what he would do. Day one,
He would shut
he
up.
would install Pi on his computer without spending a dime because...
Well, there were so many different aspects to this and unanswered questions. I don't see any connection between a bird strike and whether the landing gear was able to come up or down or not. I really can't see that those two things are related. However, what can be related is the response to a bird strike. So after you've hit a flock of birds, you may have an engine out, you might have things going on, and that creates a lot of chaos in that cockpit as far as how the aircraft is going to land, where it's going to land on the runway, all of those things. You don't have a lot of options. If you overshoot a runway by a little bit, which it appears had this happen here, is that you're going to hit in the middle of the runway as you go traverse down it. So that can cause that overspeed condition at the end. But there's so many different unanswered questions. And yes, flight data recorder will give us those answers.
Also, the fact that there was equipment at the end of this runway. What you see is this plane landing. It's careening on its belly, and then you see that it strikes navigation equipment there on the runway, hits a wall, and then bursts into flames. I mean, why is there equipment there on the runway?
That's my biggest question that I have is airports are supposed to be designed where an aircraft can land without landing gear. And if it veers off the runway to one side or the other into the grass, that there isn't obstructions and barriers of this type that are close to the runway. In this case, I haven't quite been able to determine yet, but there's no answer as to why that lighting facility, which is a large piece of concrete equipment, is located exactly where it is. No reason in my mind for it to be there. So that would be my next question does the airport meet the standard design criteria?
No, it does not.
An international airport. So those things will be looked at very closely by the investigators.
If there was an issue, David, with the landing gear, being deployed, would there have been a warning system in place notifying the pilots so they don't attempt to land?
Yes, there is. It'll say gear up, to make you remind yourself to bring the gear up as you have a proximity warning to the ground. So they would have gotten those notices, but by the time you get that, if you are in this situation, and let's say, for example, you come in to land, you don't have another engine, you can't make a go around and try it again. So even though you get those warnings, by the time you get the landing
You're
gear
screwed.
down in the position that they were in, you wouldn't have time to get them fully extended.
You're screwed.
So that may be the
Conway.
problem here, is that they didn't have time to make a go around and assure that the gear had been lowered properly.
You know, David, it's remarkable that we're talking about survivors in yet another plane crash here. Two survivors, we understand they are crew members who were pulled out of this plane. They were apparently found in the tail of the plane. And I want to ask you this because we've been talking about, wow, I think it was the Azerbaijan airline where you had survivors as well, the plane that was apparently shot down at the skies there. And the survivors from that crash are believed to have been sitting in the rear. Is the rear of the plane the safest part of the aircraft?
Yes.
Well, it depends on what kind of accident you're in. But in, I think it was 2021, the FAA did a study on this to determine the fatality rates on those accidents that had survivors. They came up with not much difference. There was 39% fatality rate in those people that are in the front of the aircraft versus the middle of the aircraft, which was around 34%, but in the rear it was 32%. So it was a slightly better chance of survivability in the tail of the aircraft, but it's not a significant number, although we have witnessed that in the last few days, both miraculously having survivors, yes.
This Jeju Airlines flight is listed as a Boeing 737-800. What do we know about this particular plane, considering that we've talked about Boeing a lot over the past years and its, the hits it has taken to its reputation with other crashes, and also the safety record of this airline? What else do we know about that?
This airline has an impeccable safety record. There's nothing to indicate that there's anything wrong with their maintenance, their facilities, their operations. Everything seems to be in line with this airplane. As far as the 800 goes, it's an NG model. They talk about it as an NG. This airplane is the backbone right now, not only in domestic U.S. where it's manufactured, but around the globe. This aircraft flies, a typical model of this aircraft flies 4 or 5 flights every day. And there are thousands of these airplanes out in the industry. So this is one of the safest airplanes, record-wise, percentage-wise, that is in the air right now. So the fact that this has occurred when everything seems to be in order is very disturbing, and we're really looking forward to seeing what we can learn from this horrific accident.
A horrific accident indeed. Obviously still an active scene there at Muan.
Well, guys, that's the end of the video, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video, and hopefully I don't have to make another episode of Week in Review, Week of Terrors. Bye.